Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has a lead character and a plot concept that seems poised to create an anchor marking a new beginning for the MCU and a character that can anchor it as well. But is it boldly looking to the future or mostly riding the coattails of the past? Stick around. I'll share my opinion on that. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Or should that be said, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Anyway, the synopsis on IMDb says, Dr. Stephen Strange casts a forbidden spell that opens the doorway to the multiverse, including alternate versions of himself whose threat to humanity is too great for the combined forces of Strange, Wong, and Wanda Maximoff. All right, so let's talk about just the basic story, script, pacing, tone without getting into spoilers and stuff. The tone, I think, would fit really well with Marvel Phase 2, which at that time Marvel was really trying to recapture the lightning in the bottle that was the original Iron Man and kind of developing this the tone that largely the MCU movies are still known for. Now, there's not as much what I would consider forced joking in Multiverse of Madness, but there's also very little weight that I felt in the proceedings. The dialogue has that slightly artificial movie quality to it, I think. Performances are slightly overstated at times, especially when delivering punchlines, and that is a valid style. It's just not a style that I like. And the storytelling doesn't leave much room for great actors like Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams to perform. You know, I think about how well The Amazing Spider-Man, even though people had issues with the story and stuff, leveraged Sally Fields, Andrew Garfield, and Emma Stone. I mean, like, oh my gosh. When's the last time you saw a movie using those kinds of, a superhero movie using those kinds of actors? And while this doesn't have as many actors of that caliber, I think of McAdams and Cumberbatch as really great actors, and they could really do some great stuff, but this isn't the movie that's allowing them to do that. The action feels very chaotic to me, and the rules of magic lack defined limitations. So action scenes felt largely creative. Well, they were creative, and they had unconvincing visuals, though I have to say, and so it just held no tension for me, because I quickly learned that even if Doctor Strange seems to be in trouble, in a few moments, the pattern is he's going to, after furrowing his brow for a bit, is going to pull some spell out that we never knew was possible in order to solve the problem. There's tons of spectacle that quickly became boring to me, the more, ironically, extravagant it became. While the story references some threads of the first movie, like the romance that was established there between Cumberbatch and McAdams, and the villain, this movie seems to have been written much more as a follow-up to like Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home, and just kind of like the larger Marvel universe or something. It didn't feel at all like the logical next step or the dramatic follow-up in terms of story and character development to the first Doctor Strange movie. With the multiverse factoring so big into this movie, we also see numerous alternative versions of Marvel characters, both unseen before and from previous MCU and even Fox movies. But, you know, WandaVision touched on this gimmick. Spider-Man No Way Home greatly expanded on this gimmick. This movie just felt like it was jumping the shark with the concept, like just dialing it up to 11, leaning on it so much in ways that I'm like, oh, we could have spent less time just bringing a bunch of crazy alternate reality cameos and given a few more minutes here and there to storytelling and things that could have developed Doctor Strange as a character more. The cameos also felt like a tour of the past and didn't seem to set up anything for the future, except possibly maybe one movie. But I mean, I wouldn't say set up so much as like referenced, oh, maybe this person is also going to be cast in this role in the future. You know, it's like, but it wasn't like dramatically saying, okay, here we're doing like a reboot and this is the start of the new MCU. It was nothing like that. So in terms of plot, I don't think it's essential at all to your understanding of MCU movies going forward. Ever since the final finger snap in Endgame, I feel like the MCU has largely been riding the coattails of past success, or giving us new characters in new movies that just don't innovate like the first Iron Man did. I want them to copy the first Iron Man, but not in tone. And that's what they've been doing so much of, or at least trying to do so much of. And they haven't really recaptured that lightning in a bottle. Rather, what I want them to copy about that first Iron Man movie is the fact that it brought to the landscape of what superhero movies had been a daring attitude to experiment with tone, mix different tones, both weighty and humorous, and create a flavor for superhero movies that we hadn't experienced before. That's what I want them to do again. They had the opportunity to do that. There was some talk about how this movie was using horror elements, and it was kind of like using flavors of horror. And Sam Raimi's directing this one, and it felt in some ways like Sam Raimi horror movies of the past. I mean, even the horror elements didn't feel scary to me, but like his other horror movies, mixed in too much humor for me. Or otherwise, it wasn't so much that, you know, the horror moments, the creepy moments were being deflated by jokes. Rather, they weren't fully committing to really trying to scare me and set up tone and suspense and stuff, or even to unsettle me. It just had horror elements that weren't having any kind of impact on me. So unfortunately, Doctor Strange and can I just call it the sit mom? Let's call it the sit mom. Unfortunately, to sit mom left me with less hope than ever before that I have anything to look forward to in the MCU. Now, let's just skip ahead. I mean, in all of that, I kind of commented on the visuals. I kind of commented on the cast a little bit. So let's skip to themes. Is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Well, I think that's more likely to happen in stories that have engaging plot, you know, or a really engaging character development and stuff. And I didn't really find either of those to be the case for me in this one. So, but if I were to try and extract some things from it, one question that was asked again and again is, are you happy? And there's, I think, maybe a theme of pursuing happiness. And we see an example of one character pursuing happiness and actually creating a lot of evil as a result of that. And that's certainly something that can be true in our lives. It might be easy for us to look at a movie and see this really dramatic, obvious example of someone creating evil that should be obvious to them, even though they're pursuing happiness. But there are much smaller and more subtle ways that as we are pursuing fulfillment or peace or happiness, however we're defining that in our minds, without realizing it, we can ironically be fixated so much on pursuing quote-unquote happiness that we actually are only met with emptiness and frustration. And so I think that's something to be just watching for in our own lives. There's a theme also of having confidence in yourself. This one is just, I mean, it's so common now, it's going in one ear and out the other. I mean, I wonder if Westerners are in a self-confidence and identity crisis that so many films seem to be wanting to respond to with these messages that are positive but feel fairly substanceless about having confidence in yourself. I mean, right now, so many people are looking for identity in all the wrong places. Their sense of confidence and solid ground beneath them. They're looking for it in accomplishments, in sexuality and gender, in affirmation from others, in romantic relationships. And what I think would be more worthwhile to explore when a movie like The Sitmom has a moment that says, have confidence in yourself. You got this. You know, on what basis should that character have that confidence? I think that would be worthwhile to explore rather than just that static message of believe in yourself, you know. Also, I was just reminded again while watching this movie that Hollywood really doesn't know how to redeem characters. They don't know what to do with a character that has gone so far off the deep end, you know. They just need to be removed from the equation. You know, we don't know what to do with a character like that. We don't know how to properly illustrate forgiveness and redemption and restoration. And so this movie just kind of had one more reminder of that as part of the plot. But yeah, that would be all I could really, I think, extract from The Sitmom. All right, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, oh, Peter. Skip this one. Bummer. It's doubtful that any MCU movies in the future will require you to have watched this one. You really, after watching this one, in hindsight, didn't even need to have watched WandaVision. I think that this one kind of catches you up, and you can just kind of easily fill in the gaps. It's not that big of a deal. Wait for the MCU Fantastic Four or the MCU X-Men. And see if they can pull you back in with new takes on those franchises. Doctor Strange was like your last tether of MCU interest, and it just snapped free. This one's rated PG-13 for intense sequences of violence and action, frightening images, and some language. Those are all my thoughts for now on Does It Bomb? No. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. The lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate Dan Exhale, Gabriel Stinson, Brian Franklin, Olin D. Branham, Drew Rubb, Winston Crutchfield, Lee Bray, Justin D. Myers, Matthew Ridgway, Cosmic Fox, and Joel Nelson. Thank you for supporting me, and SBP and CGC, and now to all who hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Wanna hear your name and song? Check out our page on Patreon. All right, I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected and get summer insanity to the crazy heights it can possibly get to by June 1st. Deadline coming up soon. I do want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/Spirit Blade Productions. Then I hope you'll check out the Christian Geek Central podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
Do you like games? I like games. Do you like games too? I like games too.